Howdy there, Internet students. It's Mr. Hermanson again. We're going to start a new unit today, 3.1, percents and proportions. So basically, a little bit will be a review, but we're going to try and make you really good at doing percent problems because it's kind of a big deal in the world. You probably noticed that. Anyway, let's get on with it. So the first lesson here is about estimating, basically trying to figure out what the answer is or close to what the answer is before you actually work it out. Okay. Now, one way you can work with percents is to set up and solve a proportion. And you've done that before. Some of you might have used like a window pane kind of idea for that. When using percent proportions, you will know two of the three values, and we're going to have names for those. Okay, so let's talk about that real quick. We're going to say that B is the part. B is the part. A is the whole. And then the number over 100, you guys probably already know that's the percent. Okay? Now, if a problem is asking for a percent, you do not have to put in the percent sign when putting your answers on Google Form. Just let you know that ahead of time. Okay, so just to review quickly of solving proportions, I'll do the first one and then you can do the second one. What we do is we know that these two multiplied, the 6 and the x, will equal these two multiplied. So what we have to do is figure out what number times 6 is 90, and to do that we do 90 divided by 6. Now some of you are thinking that can't I just do 9 times 10 and then divide that by 6? Yeah, you can do that. So go ahead and try the second. There you go. You should have got 6 for that answer. Yeah. Okay. Now, last year when you were doing percent problems, you probably used the window idea possibly. We're just going to use a proportion. It's pretty much the same thing. So whatever it's out of, that's your whole. So if you see the word of, that's going to go down in the bottom where the whole is. The percent, if it's given in the problem, always goes over 100. And then you can go ahead and work the problem. So I'm going to do 322 times 67 to figure out what that equals. And then I'm going to divide that by 100. And if you did that right, you got 21.44. Now when you do your assignments, make sure you check and see where the answer should be rounded for on your Google form. Okay, so go ahead, you guys try the next one. So part over whole, and then if you're given the percent, that goes over the 100. See if you can get them in the right place. All right, so if you set that up right, you said since it's out of 55, that would be your whole. 27 is not the percent, so it must be the part, so that goes on top of the 55. And so you're looking for a percent, and you can tell that because it says what is the percent of 55. So, and if you set that up and then you do 27 times 100 first, divide that by 55, and that gives you 49%. All right, now on this lesson, I'm going to try and teach you some strategies for estimating answers. So I'm going to go through some problems and show you how I might do that. And so that's what we're trying to do on these. We're not trying to figure it out exactly. We're just trying to get an estimate. Okay, so remember here, Washington Middle School has 750, Kennedy Middle School has 600 students. So a survey finds that 375 Washington students participate in club activities while 350 Kennedy students participate. Okay, so Washington is 375 out of 750. Okay, and we want to know what percent that is. Well, one way you can figure out the percent is maybe look at what these numbers represent and write a simpler fraction that is the same thing. Some of you may have noticed that this is exactly 1/2, which is 50%. If you're not really good at that, let's round this to 400. Now, the bottom number you want to round a little higher just because we want to keep it proportional. So maybe you would round that to 800. And again, you can see now that this is 1/2, which you guys know is 50%. Okay? So it says about what percent of Kennedys. So I'm going to write this down and I'm going to let you guys guess and then I'll tell you what I would have done. But so Kennedy has 350 out of 600. Okay? Now start by thinking about that. Is that more than 50% or less? And then try and figure out about how much more. Now it's not exactly 60%, but it's really close to 60%. And the reason I think that is because if it was 300 out of 600, that's exactly 1/2. So we're kind of using a 1/2 strategy here. And then we got 50 left, 50 out of 600. Well, here's a 10% strategy. 10% of a number is always one decimal back of that number. So if this said 60 out of 600, that would be 10%. So this 50 is really close to 10% more, probably a little bit less. So 60% is a good estimate on that. All right? So do a greater percent of Washington or a greater percent of Kennedy students participate? You can tell that since Kennedy has over 50%, that a greater percent of Kennedy students participate. All right, let's try another problem. At each school, 500 students play a musical instrument. So in Kennedy, that would be 500 out of 750. In Washington, that would be 500 out of 600. Now, if since this is a greater number but the top number is the same, we can tell that this ratio is a bigger ratio. 500 out of 600 is definitely greater than 500 out of 70. So this one will turn into a greater percent. Now, if you want to estimate, remember I talked about fractions, that there's two 250s in here and three 250s in there. So this simplifies to 2/3. And you should get used to the idea that 1/3 is 33, 2/3 is about 66%. Now, 50 out of 60, or 5 out of 6, we probably want to change that a little bit to make that easier. Well, if we divided this by 6, we'd be out of 100. Right? The 600 divided by 6 is out of 100. If it's out of 100, it's out of a percent. So now we have to think, can I divide this 500 by 6? Not perfectly, but 480 is divisible by 6, and that's about 80. 8 times 6 is 48, so 80 times 6 is 480. So this is going to be a little bit more than 80%. Which is quite a bit higher than 66%. Okay? On this next one, I'm going to teach you a 10% strategy. Okay? If you could figure out what 10% of something is, then, like if we want 70% here, then you can just multiply that by 7, because 10% times 7 is 70. And you could do that for any percent that's a whole 10. Like if it was 40%, you could multiply 10% times 4. Well, finding 10% of a number is pretty easy. So it says, how many students at Washington volunteer? Washington has 750 students. 10% of that is 75. Now we want that times 7 because we're looking for 70% in our answer, right? That's not super easy, so let's round 75 to 80 because that'd be easier. I'm pretty sure you can do 8 times 7, which is 56. Now, and then I add the 0 on, so about 500 students would be about 560 students. I rounded that up, so I might go a little bit less and say maybe about 550 students. Now at Kennedy has 500 students, right? 10% of that is 50. 70% of that would be that times 7, which is 350. That one was pretty nice to do that way. Okay, I'm going to let you try that 10%. Let's cross out number 4. The problem isn't finished, but so we want about 43%. 43% is really close to 40. So do the 10% strategy. Now this says, and this is kind of tricky, but a lot of questions are like, how many did not attend the musical? If about 43% attended, which is about 40%, then about 60% did not attend. Now, I want you to try the 10% strategy and see if you can figure out about what 60% is from each school. So Washington will be 60% of 750, and Kennedy will be 60% of 500. Go ahead and do that. See if you can do that 10% strategy. Remember, 10% is dividing by 10. So just divide this number by 10 to get 10%, and then multiply that by 6 to get 60%. I'll pause while you do. So here's what I got. So 10% of 500 is 50. Multiply that by 6 because we want 60%, and that comes to 300. All right. Blood drive. So 2 neighboring colleges hold an annual blood drive competition. This year, Smithville University wanted to collect 1,200 pints, and Jonesboro College wanted to collect 800 pints. You know what? I think I'm going to stop this video now, and I'll just give you a few problems to work on. So think about those 2 strategies we have, and I'm going to have you do your assignment at this point, and I'll get back to these other problems, but you can go ahead and do second thought. Let's just call it a day. Watching the video, taking notes for today. Tomorrow we'll do the assignment, and I'll give you another video for the other part. So no assignment today, and we'll get back to the video lesson tomorrow. All right, talk to you soon.